and today we're going to be comparing two Tom Ford fragrances. I have Tom Ford Noir Pour Femme and Tom Ford Noir Extreme. And the reason why we're going to be comparing these two is because I find them incredibly similar. Before I start comparing these two fragrances, I just wanted to give you some background. So you can see in terms of the bottle, they look really similar. It's just the shape that's really different. They were both created by the same perfumer, which is Sonia Constant, I believe is how you say her name. And Noir Extreme came out first. I think this one came out in 2015 maybe, and I think this one came out a couple years ago, maybe 2018, the Noir Pour Femme. And they're both, I think, technically sort of supposed to be flankers of Tom Ford Noir, but honestly, I feel like the Pour Femme is a flanker of Extreme because they're so incredibly similar. So obviously the Extreme is marketed towards men and the Pour Femme, as the name says, is marketed towards women, but I think both are perfectly unisex fragrances and I do not think you need both. I will talk about why I have both in a minute. I also want to mention that the price for both of these is identical, so it really is going to come down to your preference which one you should get. But I will say that when I'm talking about the price being identical, I'm talking about at the retailers. I would recommend searching at discounters because I actually recently picked up the Pour Femme on, I think it was fragrancebuy.ca, but I've seen it, it's actually even at Costco right now, but you can get it for a lot less than you can at Sephora. So check other places besides like, you know, Sephora or Ulta because they are starting to show up at a lot of discounters and you can save a lot of money by buying them there. So I'm gonna start comparing the actual fragrances themselves, but first I wanna tell you why I have both. Now, the reason why I picked up Tom Ford Noir Extreme at first was partially because it was available at Ulta and I used my points to get this for free, but also because I had heard that this had better performance. I tested this a long time ago at Sephora and I remember being disappointed by the performance. It didn't seem to last very long on me. And so I heard somebody say that this one had better performance, and so I went ahead and just got this since I had the points to get it for free. I knew it smelled similar, it was supposed to smell similar, and theoretically it was supposed to have better performance is what I heard, but I don't know that that's correct, and I'll come back to that. Now, both of these fragrances include a note that is supposed to represent the smell of Kulfi. And Kulfi is basically sort of an ice cream that comes from India and it's made out of, I believe it is like sweetened condensed milk or maybe it's evaporated milk or combination of the two. I'm not sure, but something like that gives it like a really thick richness, like it might be thicker than I think your typical ice cream would be. And then also it typically has cardamom, I believe, in it, which is a pretty common spice used in Indian cooking. And then I think often it might be flavored with things like pistachios or mangoes, things of that nature. So these both have that as the predominant note in them. In fact, the note breakdown for both of these is pretty much identical, except that the Noir Extreme is supposed to have some spices in it that Pour Femme doesn't. I believe it's supposed to have cardamom, nutmeg, and maybe saffron, I think. But honestly, I don't pick up a whole lot of difference. This one does seem just a tiny bit spicier, but like I said, I think Kulfi usually has cardamom in it, so I think they both might have that note, even though it's only credited in this one. Other notes that I personally pick up in both are vanilla and amber, but mostly vanilla. I am not huge on amber. In fact, like really ambery fragrances I don't tend to enjoy, but I only pick up the tiniest bit of that. I mostly get vanilla from these in addition to the Kulfi and, like I said, a little bit of spice. Now, I went ahead and sprayed both of these on earlier today so I could let them dry down. On my right hand, I have the Extreme, and on my left, or wrist, I should say, I have the Pour Femme. And in the dry down, again, they're really, really similar. I think that the Pour Femme is just a touch sweeter, whereas the Extreme might be just a teeny tiny touch spicier, but that's honestly almost gone now in the dry down. Let me go ahead and spray a couple tester strips here so we can compare the openings and see. Okay. And then the Extreme here. Yeah, the opening of the Extreme is just a touch spicier than the Pour Femme. But like I said in the dry down, I don't really get that difference anymore. So here's the Pour Femme, a little sweeter in the opening still. And this one is, honestly, it's like a little like drier maybe. Like I said, a little spicier, but I'd almost use the word dry there. I think in both the opening and the dry down, the Pour Femme is a little more well-rounded, or like robust, maybe is a word to use there. I don't know. It feels like there's a little bit more depth to it. I think that's the word I want, depth. So it feels like there's a little more depth to the Pour Femme than to the Extreme. But honestly, if you haven't experienced both a lot and you kind of didn't know which one you were spraying, I don't know that you'd be able to tell much of a difference whatsoever. Now, in terms of lasting power, because that's the reason why I picked up the Extreme to start with. Like I said, I sampled this originally. I got like, you know, just a tiny little sample from Sephora that they made up for me out of like one of their tester bottles. And I wasn't thrilled with the performance. But then I got this one and I thought that it was gonna have better performance, and I don't think it does. I think if anything, the Pour Femme has slightly better performance, but I do think both have a moderate longevity. The difference is though that I think that the Pour Femme projects more. I think it has more of a sillage. It, you know, has more of a tail when you walk and you leave a room or you enter a room. You know, it kind of fills it up and lingers there for a bit. I think it projects and has better sillage than the Extreme. I think the actual lasting power on the skin is pretty similar in both. I would say both are moderate to like, it's pretty decent. I would say I get probably 5-ish hours with the Extreme and maybe 6 with the Pour Femme. So again, it's not like you know, like gonna last all day if you have to go to work for, you know, 8+ hours or whatever, but it's pretty good. And like I said, the Pour Femme really projects for quite a while. And I actually, when I first tried this out, I sprayed it as much as I would spray the Extreme, and it was a little too much. So since I first tried it out, I haven't sprayed as much when I've worn it, because I almost like choked myself out at first, because it does have some pretty strong projection, especially for the first several hours. So which one would I recommend? Well, I think it's your preference. If you don't like something quite as sweet and you like maybe a drier, ever so slightly spicier fragrance, maybe go for the Extreme. But honestly, I wish I would have just got this in the first place, because when I did sample it, I loved the way it smells, but like I said, I was just disappointed with the performance. The sample that I got did not perform as well as this bottle does, so who knows? It could be a number of things. The fact that those bottles, the tester bottles, sit out in light all day long at Sephora, you know, it was like sprayed, who knows? It could have just been maybe I became anosmic to it when I sampled it the one time, and I, you know, hadn't really tried it since, but I wish I would have just got this in the first place. However, you know, I got this for free with my points, and I got this on a great deal from, like I said, I think I got it from fragrancebuy.ca, but I do know that they currently have the 1.7 ounce bottle at Costco, if you're a member there, for like, I want to say it was like $67 or something like that. Definitely much better than the price you would pay at, you know, Sephora or Macy's or wherever. So personally, I would lean towards the Pour Femme. Even if you are a man, I would lean towards the Pour Femme. I find it to be the better fragrance. In terms of classification, they classify the Noir Extreme as a woody oriental on the Tom Ford website, and the Noir Pour Femme as a floral oriental, but I don't pick up florals from this whatsoever. I would personally classify them both as gourmands, especially because the primary notes I get from both are the kulfi, which is ice cream, so food, and vanilla, again, food. So I think I would classify them both as gourmands, regardless of what it says on the Tom Ford website. So anyway, I hope that helped you guys. It definitely would have helped me to kind of have more of a comparison between the two when I was making my decision about which to get. I do think I'm going to pass along the Noir Extreme because I don't need both. They're too similar, but I did enjoy wearing it while I had it. So that's it for today, guys. I hope you liked this video. So give it a thumbs up. Have you tried both of these, by the way? If anybody else has tried both, I'd love to hear like your kind of interpretation or comparison of them. And if you haven't tried both, have you tried either one, and do you own either one? Let me know your thoughts, and I hope I will see you guys next time. Take care. Bye.